So we'll continue our discussion on game theory. Last class, if you remember, we discussed about the different assumption of the game theory. What is the need of game theory generally, in which case what is the usefulness of the game theory is there in the economic analysis. Then we discussed about the structure of a game. Then we took a small example to understand what is the dominant strategy, what is the max-min strategy, what is the min-max strategy, and how generally equilibrium is achieved when there are two dominant strategy. Then we introduce the concept of Nash equilibrium, and Nash equilibrium, if you remember, this is the best action given by the player, whatever the irrespective of whatever the opponent does, that is the best strategy, that is generally the Nash equilibrium. So taking the example of both the firms to advertise or not to advertise, what we discussed in the previous session, the same example we are going to take to understand this Nash equilibrium. So, just to a quick recap, Nash equilibrium is a strategy for each player such that no player has the incentive to change its action unilaterally, given that the other player follow the proposed action. So, generally this is a state of equilibrium, this is a state of balance beyond which whatever the effort the player they are going to put it is not going to change their payoff, and that is why this typical combination is called as the Nash equilibrium. It is generally, the other way to put it is that it is the optimal collective strategy in the game involving two or more players, where no player has anything to gain by changing his or her strategy. So, this is the point, this is the optimal collective strategy, this is the optimal strategy for both the firms, beyond which whatever may be the change, no player has to gain anything by changing the strategy. So, we will take the same example to understand this Nash equilibrium, and here there are two firms, firm 1 and firm 2, and it is a choice between them that whether they should advertise or whether they should not advertise. So, we will take the case of firm 2 here, we will take the case of firm 1. Here it is whether they should go for the advertisement, whether they should not advertise. Here again we have taken the advertise and do not advertise. So, when both the firms they are advertising, firm 1 get a share of 50, firm 2 get a share of 20. When firm 1 advertise and firm 2 is not advertising, firm 1 is getting 60 and firm 2 is getting 10. When firm 1 is firm 2 is advertising, firm 1 is not advertising, he gets 40, firm 1 get 40 and firm 2 get 30, and when both of them they are not advertising, they get a payoff of 65 and 25. Now, how we can decide their Nash equilibrium? Now, what firm 1 will try to do? Firm 1 will try to speculate firms to action, and in return what firm 2 will do? Firm 2 will also try to anticipate what is firm 1 action. Okay. Now, to start with, let us see what the firm 1 will first do. So, to start with, firm 1 will presume that firm 2 is going to advertise. If firm 2 is going to advertise, it is better for the firm 1 to advertise, because in that case they are getting a payoff of 50. If he is not going for advertising, even if firm 2 is going for advertising, he is getting a payoff of 40. Okay. What is best for him? Best for him to go for the advertisement, because he will presume that anyway, since it is a case of the market share, the optimal output at the end of the day is that there should be increase in the market share, and market share how it will increase if firm they are going for the advertisement. So, in this case if farm 1 always presume that the farm 2 is going to advertise, and if farm 2 is going to advertise, then in that case if farm 1 also advertises, he gets a market share of 50, whereas if he is not advertising, even if farm 2 is advertising, he get a market share of 40. So, since 50 is greater than 40, it is always best outcome or the best payoff to go for advertisement. Now, we will understand from the perspective of the farm 2. Okay. Now, how farm 2 will react to this, or how farm 2 will behave in this case. So, farm 2 knows that same thought process again, or the same speculation again, that since it is about the market share increases whenever there is a increase in the advertisement. The more it reaches to the consumer, more is the market share. So, in this case farm 2 will also think that anyway farm 1 is going to advertise, because he has to increase the market share, and if farm 1 is advertising, if farm 2 is advertising, it gets a share of payoff, because their payoff is 20. If farm 1 is advertising and farm 2 is not advertising, that gets a share of 10. So, since 20 is greater than 10, this should be the preferred, or this should be the best outcome, best strategy. So, for farm 2 also the best strategy, or maybe the decision of the farm 2 has to advertise. Okay. Now, what is the Nash equilibrium? Nash equilibrium is, since whatever the strategy taken by farm 1, irrespective of whatever the other farm is doing, if it is matching with the strategy whatever is taken by farm 2, irrespective of what farm 1 is doing. So, this is what, this is a similarity, that both the farm they are going to advertise whatever the other farms they are doing in it. So, in this case the Nash equilibrium is, Nash equilibrium for both the farm is to advertise and advertise. So, this combination of farm 2 and farm 1 is generally leads to Nash equilibrium, because the whatever the best for B, irrespective of whatever the best for B, irrespective of what A does, or whatever best for A irrespective of whatever B does, if that equal, then we get the Nash equilibrium. So, Nash equilibrium is what, in this case specific case, whatever each farm 2 is doing, irrespective of farm 1, that strategy is advertised, and whatever each farm 1 is doing irrespective of farm 2, the strategy is again to advertise. That is why to advertise and to advertise, this combination leads to the Nash equilibrium. So, taking the same example, we can understand that how generally when the both the company they are into a competition, or they are into taking a decision making, that whether they have to go for it, not for it. In that case generally they look at what may be the opponent choice, but here they have to, when they have to reach a decision, they have to see that irrespective of whatever the other company is doing, or whatever the other firm is doing, what best they are getting out of it. Okay. Now, in this case both the firms they have the dominant strategy. The dominant strategy for firm 1 is to advertise, the dominant strategy for firm 2 is also advertise. But maybe we will get a case where firm 1 and firm 2 they do not have the dominant strategy. Now, what would happen to the equilibrium output in this case? Because it may happen that the payoff changes, or the payoff is in such a way that there is no dominant strategy for one of them. Suppose one is having a dominant strategy, the other is not having a dominant strategy. In that case, what is the Nash equilibrium? Because Nash equilibrium is ideally the dominant strategy of one, when it matches the dominant strategy of the others, we get the Nash equilibrium. But if any case, if there is absence of dominant strategy of one of the firm or maybe the other firm, in this case what should be the equilibrium output. So, we will just change the payoff slightly and we will see in this case when there is no dominant strategy how the equilibrium output is achieved. So, we will just change the payoff matrix for farm 1 and farm 2. Okay. So, this is advertise, this is not advertising, this is advertising, this is not advertising. So, this is the payoff in the first case, this is the payoff in the second case, this is the payoff in the third case, this is the payoff in the fourth case. Okay. Now, we will start it again how to whether we can reach the equilibrium looking at the strategy taken by farm A and farm 2. Now, suppose if farm 1 advertises. Now, what farm 2 will do? Farm 2 will also advertise because it gets a better payoff in case of advertising like 50 and 40. Now, sorry, it is 20 and 10 because 20 he gets by advertising, by not advertising it gets 10. Suppose if farm 1 is not advertising. Okay. Now, here you need to look at the options that whether it is still profitable for the second farm to go for the advertising. So, if farm 1 is not advertising, now what the farm 2 will do? Farm 2 will also not advertise because the payoff what they are getting from not advertising is higher than the whatever the payment they are getting from the advertising. So, in the previous case since this was 25 the payoff, it was profitable for the farm 2 to advertise even if farm 2 is not farm 1 is not advertising. But in this case if farm 1 is not advertising and farm 2 is advertising, they are getting a payoff of 30. If they are not advertising, when farm 1 is not advertising, then they are getting a 35. So, not advertising payoff is greater than advertising, and that is why they will prefer not to advertise when the farm 1 is not advertising. Okay. So, if you look at here, if now if you look at if farm 2 is advertising and this is for when farm 1 is advertising not advertising, what farm 2 should do. So, in this case when farm 1 is not advertising, farm 2 is also going to a strategy where it is where the second farm is also not advertising. Similarly, if you look at now if the farm 2 is advertising and if farm 1 is also advertising and if farm 2 is not advertising, when farm 1 is not advertising. So, in this case specifically if you look at farm 2, it depends upon what farm does. So, if farm 1 advertise, farm 2 also advertise, and if farm 1 is not advertising, farm 2 is also not advertising. This leads to the conclusion that farm 2 it does not have a dominant strategy, because the strategy are different whenever the opponent changes the strategy, even the other farm also they have to change the strategy. So, we reach to one conclusion here that farm 2 does not have a dominant strategy. Now, we will analyze the case for farm 1. Okay. So, we will just take the payoff matrix for the reference. So, this is farm 2 advertising, not advertising. This is farm 1, again this is advertising, this is not advertising, and the payoff are 50, 20, 40, 30, 60, 10 and 65, 35. So, we have already reached to a conclusion that farm 2 does not have a dominant strategy, because it is dependent on farm 1. If farm 1 advertise, it advertise, farm 1 is not advertising, it is not advertising. Now, we will analyze for farm 1. If farm 2 advertise, then it is better for farm 1 to also advertise. Why it is better for farm 1 to also advertise? Because 50, the payoff of advertising is greater than 40, which is the payoff for not advertising. This is one situation. Second, when farm 2 is not advertising, in this case, if farm 2 is not advertising, if farm 1 is advertising, they get a payoff of 60. When farm 2 is not advertising and farm 1 is also not advertising, they get a payoff of 65. So, not advertise is, the payoff of not advertise is greater than the payoff for advertise. So, now what is the best for farm 1 here? The, or maybe if we can conclude here that if farm 1 should advertise, if farm 2 is advertising and farm 1 is not advertising, when farm 2 is not advertising. Okay. So, we can say again here that farm 1 is also having no dominant strategy, because it is dependent on whatever the strategy taken by farm 2. So, if farm 2 is advertising, farm 1 is also advertising, and if farm 2 is not advertising, farm 1 is also not advertising. So, in this case also, if you look at, there is no dominant strategy for farm 1, because it is not the best, whatever the best, that dependent on the rival's action, and in this case there is no specific action, it is all the dependent on the whatever the best, that is dependent on the rival's action. So, in this case if you look at, neither farm 1 nor farm 2, they have a dominant strategy. Now, how we should reach, or how we should find out the equilibrium output over here, or whether it is possible to get the Nash equilibrium. So, we have checked a situation, we have analyzed a situation where farm 1 and farm 2, they do not have the dominant strategy. What would happen to the equilibrium output in this case? Here we will get two Nash equilibrium, we will not get a individual Nash equilibrium for the entire situation. Here we will get two Nash equilibrium. One Nash equilibrium, it occurs when both companies they advertise. When farm 1 and farm 2 they are advertising, both of them they are advertising, we get one Nash equilibrium, and when both of them they do not advertise, we get another Nash equilibrium. So, when the dominant strategy of one is not matching with the dominant strategy of others, or maybe there is a absence of the dominant strategy for both the firms over here, we will not get a individual Nash equilibrium for the entire game, rather we will get two Nash equilibrium. One Nash equilibrium occurs when both company advertise, and second Nash equilibrium occurs when both the firms they are not advertising. And here each firm is better off if it play the same strategy as the other firm. So, if one firm is advertising, the other firm should also advertise, and if the other firm is not advertising, this firm also should not advertise. and simultaneously both the Nash equilibrium occurs when both the firms simultaneously play the same strategy. So, it is not that when one firm is advertising and other firm is not advertising, the Nash equilibrium will come. Rather, Nash equilibrium will come when both the firms simultaneously play the same strategy. If one is advertising, the other one is also advertising, and if one firm is not advertising, the other firm is also not advertising. And Nash equilibrium comes when both the firms they play the same strategy at a particular point of time. So, any max-min strategy profile confers to Nash equilibrium, because max-min strategy generally this is the maximization of the worst payoff that confers to Nash equilibrium, and also the minimax strategy by both the player also lead to Nash equilibrium. So, in the first case maximizing the worst payoff by both the players, that will lead to Nash equilibrium, because it is basically in that case the player chooses a strategy which maximizes the payoff among the worst payoff. So, that in that case also we can get a Nash equilibrium, and also in case of minimax strategy where the strategy is not to maximize something of the own payoff, rather to minimize the payoff for the others, and that is why the minimax strategy for both the players if you look at, because one firm generally try to minimize the payoff for the others, and at the same time the other firm is also trying to minimize the payoff for the other firm, and in this case generally that also leads to kind of a Nash equilibrium. Then we will discuss interesting case generally which is more common. It is a kind of game generally followed to understand the human behavior rather than a typical profit maximizing firm, and how this specific game is also a part of, if you look at, also a part of the economic theory, because it is basically individual, but when we generalize this to the individual firms or the economic agents, generally they behave in that situation. So, we will start a like interesting case study or interesting kind of game, where the basically the moral of this case study is that even if cooperation is profitable, still they will not cooperate with each other, because they feel that this is not going to the best for them. So, prisoner's dilemma generally provides an insight into the difficulty in maintaining the cooperation, and even if the cooperation is profitable, still they find it difficult in maintaining the cooperation, and that is the reason they never reach to the optimal solution, they always get into a suboptimal solution. So, often people, or when it comes to oligopolist firm, they fail to cooperate with one another even when cooperation would make them better off. So, they fail to cooperate, whether it is a case of individual economic agent or whether it is a case of a firm, they fail to cooperate with each other when the cooperation would make them better off. So, this prisoner's dilemma, it is a particular game between two capture prisoners that illustrate why cooperation is difficult to maintain even if when it is mutually beneficial. So, this is the, if you look at this, the case study of two capture prisoners, and when they were captured by the authority, they knew that the cooperation is going to help them out, the cooperation is profitable, but it always it difficult to maintain the cooperation, and finally they land into a situation which is suboptimal, but that is not the optimal solution, or that is not the best solution for them. So, here two suspects, the story goes like this, or the case study goes like this. Two suspects are arrested for a armed robbery. They are immediately separated, they are taken into prison. So, the suspect they are arrested and armed for some robbery, and immediately they were separated. There is no information between both of them, there is no communication between both of them, and it's then the choice were giving to them whether they should confess or whether they should not confess. So, they are arrested, they are immediately separated, and how the payoff will come? If convicted, they will get a term of 10 years in prison. If the crime is it's proved, they are getting conviction, and conviction they are getting 10 years in prison. The evidence is not sufficient to convict them more than crime of possessing stolen good, which carries a sentence of only 1 year. If the evidence is not sufficient to convict them, because it is a case of robbery, so in this case if it is not getting proved, they cannot get the 10 years of prison, and they will just carry a sentence of only 1 year, because they have one crime left, that they have possession of the stolen goods there in the with them. So, if it is if you look at it, two different activity, they are caught for being one, but still they have some stolen goods, and for them they will get the punishment for 1 year. But if they are getting convicted for bank robbery, they will get a punishment of 10 years. The suspects are given for information from the authority. They are told the following: if you confess, your accomplice doesn't, you will go free. If you do not confess, then your accomplice does, you will get 10 years in prison. If you both confess, you will get 5 years in prison. So, these are the options given to the suspect. If you confess, then you will go free, because you have confessed that you have done the crime. If you do not confess, but your other one confess, other partner that confess, then you will get 10 years and he will go free. If both of you are confessing, then you will both get 5 years in prison. Now, from there they get this is the payoff matrix, and how this payoff matrix, how the payoff matrix we can construct now. This is for prisoner 1, this is for prisoner 2. So, in this case is getting 10 years, both of them they are getting their okay. So, both of them they get 10 years when both of they confess. Then prisoner 2, so let us call it, this is confess, this is not confess, this is confess, this is not confess. If both of prisoner 1 and prisoner 2, both of them they are confessing, they are getting the sentence of 10 years. If prisoner 1 not confessing, prisoner 2 confess, then prisoner 1 here get 10 years and prisoner 2 gets, prisoner 2 generally goes free, because he has confessed. Both of them they are not confessing, okay, prisoner 1 confess, prisoner 2 not confessing, prisoner 1, so we can call it okay, 1 not confess, okay, then we can call it prisoner 1 goes free, so we get 0, prisoner 2 is get 10 years. Both of them they are not confessing, they get 1. Now, what is the best option, or maybe we can just change this on the basis of our payoff. Okay. So, if you confess and your accomplice doesn't, you will go free and your accomplice will get 10 years. Okay. So, in this case there is a small change over here. So, this is 5 and 5. So, when both of them they are confessing, they are just getting 5 years. When one is confessing, the other one is not confessing, who is confessing he is going free, the other one is getting 10, and similarly if both of them they are not confessing, they are getting 1. Now, what is the best option for them? If you look at, best option for them is to remain silent. If they are not confessing, remain silent, they just get 1. But practically how this will happen? Practically this is not going to take place. Since they are the rivals and since there is no communication between prisoner 1 and prisoner 2, they will feel that if I am not going to confess, the other one is going to confess. So, in this case I am going to get 10 years, the other one goes free. And in the same thought, prisoner 2 also will think that okay, if I am not going to confess, the other one is anyway going to confess, and in that case I am getting a prison of 10 years, then the other one is going free. Here if you look at, cooperation is beneficial if both of them they remain silent, if both of them they have the trust that the other one is not going to confess, they will remain silent and they would have got just 1 year, 1 year. But ideally how this will happen, both of them they will confess with the thought that if I am not going to confess, the other one is going to get the confess, and in that case he is going free and I am just getting, I am getting more, I am getting 10 years. So, in that case with the same line of thought, both of them they will confess and finally they will land in a payoff which is not optimal, rather this is suboptimal, because the optimal one is here when both the prisoners they remain, both the prison they remain silent, but they are not silent, they both of them they are going to confess, and that is the reason they will end into a suboptimal solution, and which is maybe not the Nash equilibrium. For here you cannot get a Nash equilibrium, and finally they will end in a situation which is not optimal, rather it is a suboptimal situation. Now, the same thing, so if you look at here again, what is the dominant strategy? The dominant strategy is the best strategy for a player to follow regardless of the strategy chosen by the other player. So, in this case can we say that when we confess, that is the best strategy, because best strategy for both the prisoner, because what is the dominant strategy? Dominant strategy is one where irrespective of whatever is the other one is doing, that is the best strategy. If prisoner 1 decides to remain confess, that should be the best strategy irrespective of what other is doing. So, in this case if you look at, still confess is the best strategy for the prisoner 1, because if the other one is not confessing, other one is confessing, he is just getting 5 years, the other one is not confessing, then he is going free, and if the other one is maybe remain silent, that is again another strategy. So, in this case the dominant strategy is the best strategy for the player, follow the regardless, but if you look at, it may be the dominant strategy, but this is not best payoff, because for prisoner 1 what are the option, if he remains silent, if the other one remains silent, it is okay, that is 1, but the other one confess, then you get 10 years. So, he has to maximize or the minimize the whatever the worst payoff can happen in case of the rival section. So, he will prefer to confess, because at least even if it is not an optimal solution, but still it is better than if he is not confessing. And the same thing will happen with prisoner 2, and both of them they will confess, they will reach to a solution which is maybe the best strategy at that point, but that is not the optimal solution. And what is the problem over here? Problem over here is there is lack of cooperation, and they find that cooperation is difficult, and that is the reason they are getting into a suboptimal solution. So, cooperation is difficult to maintain, because cooperation is not the best interest of the individual player. Then we will take this example in a revenue function or in a revenue payoff, and we will understand how the price increase and how generally the oligopolist changes accordingly. So, there are 2 oligopolists, Jack and Jill, and they are into the business of they generally sell the oil in the market. So, in the first case they have different options. When the price is $40 per gallon, so if you look at, if the price is $40 per 1 gallon, both of them they are selling 40 gallon each, and they are getting 1600 as revenue. Now, if they both of them they are reducing from 40 gallon to 30 gallon, the price is going to $50, and both of them they are getting 1800 as revenue. This is one case where 40 rupees for 1 gallon, and both of them they are just selling 40 gallons. Similarly, when they are just selling 30 gallon, the price will increase to 50 gallon, and both of them they are getting a revenue of 1800. If Jack sell 40 and Jill sell 30, in this case what is the revenue? If Jack sell 40 and Jill sell 30, in this case Jill will get Jack will get okay, Jack sell 40 gallons, Jill sell, okay. So, in this case Jack will get 2000 and Jill will get 1500. Similarly, if Jill is selling 30 and Jill is selling 40 and Jack is selling 30, then in this case it is getting 2000 and here it is 1500. The price is $50. Okay. Now, we will see what both of them they will do. So, now if you look at the slide, when Jack is selling 40, Jill is selling 40, both of them they are getting 1600 as the revenue. And they knows that if both of them they are selling 30 gallon, the price will go up and they can get a 1800 as the revenue, because price will go for 60 rupees per gallon and they are getting $60 per gallon and they are getting 1800 as the revenue. But ideally what they will do, they will not reduce, both of them they will try to sell 40. Here what is the optimal strategy? Optimal strategy is to sell less so that the price will go up and they will get a higher revenue. But what they will do, both of them they will not sell 30, they will sell 40. So, in this case if you look at, if Jack is selling 40 and Jill is selling 30, he is going to get a revenue, Jill is going to get a revenue of 1500 and Jack is going to get a revenue of 2000. Price goes up to, because it is 70 in place of 80, it is 70 now. So, that in that case the price goes up to $50 per gallon. Now, in the other case also, if Jill is selling more and Jack is selling less, in the same case the total, in the first case if both of them they are selling, both of them when they are selling 40, total is 80 gallon and the price is $40 per gallon. Now, ideal situation is both of them they should just sell 30 gallons, that comes to 60 gallon, the price goes up to $60 and in this case both of them they will get a revenue of 1800. What they will try to do, ideal is this, both of them if they are reducing they are getting it, but they will not try to reduce it, both of them they are trying to just sell 40 gallon and they will land in a revenue which is again not a optimal solution. Like if you look at here, Jack gets 1600, Jill get 1600. And why they get into this 40 gallon? Because if at any point of time Jill is selling 30 gallon, he gets less revenue as compared to Jack, because Jack is not going to reduce beyond 40 gallons. And in some situation if Jack is reducing it to 30 gallons, Jill is not going to reduce, and in this case Jack get a revenue of 1500 and Jill get a revenue of 2000. So, if you look at the payoff in the fourth box, this looks more profitable for them, this should be the optimal strategy, but they will not follow here, they will end in a situation where it is suboptimal or where they are getting less profit. This same example can be taken into again in a different context, like you have two country 1 and country 2, and the options are whether to keep arm and ammunition or whether to not to keep the arm and ammunition. So, the choice are, if you look at whether to arm or to disarm. Here again whether to arm or whether to disarm. Okay. If country 1 is keeping arm, country 2 is keeping arm, then both country 1 and country 2 they are at the risk. If country 1 is disarmed and country 2 is still keeping arm, in this case country 1 is maybe the risk and country 2 is safe and powerful. Similarly, here if country 1 is disarmed and country 2 is keeping arm, in this case again country 1 is safe and country 2 is risk, and when both of them they are not keeping the arm and ammunition, both of them they are safe. Here in this case what is the optimal strategy? Optimal strategy is here where both country 1 and country 2 they are safe, but they are not going to this option, they are going to exercise this option, and they both the country 1 and country 2 they are going on the risk. So, if you look at what you can conclude from here on the basis of all this situation, that even if the cooperation is difficult, even if the cooperation is profitable, still they go for a situation where maybe they always end into a suboptimal strategy, like whether you take a case of the prisoners, whether you take the case of the oligopolist, whether you take the case of the typical country, whether it is keeping arm and ammunition, all these cases cooperation is always lead them to a strategy or lead them to a outcome which is best for both of them. But since there is no trust or there is lack of cooperation, they always feel that the rivals is going in a different direction and rival will try to give us the worst payoff, and that is the reason that will end into a situation which is suboptimal. So, if you remember from the case of prisoner, the best outcome is to remain silent, but they will not remain silent, both of them they will confess and they will land into a situation which is suboptimal. Similarly, about the two oligopolists Jack and Jill, in both these cases if they are selling, both of them they are selling just 30 gallons, they are getting a profit of 1800, but still they are not doing that, both of them they are selling 40 gallon and finally that leads into a suboptimal situation. And similarly, in the country level also keeping arm and ammunition, both the country they are at the risk, but still they are keeping it because there is a lack of trust or there is lack of cooperation that the other firm is also, other country is also going to disarm. But the best option is that both of them they disarm themselves and they become safe, but that is not going to happen in this case, and that is why both the country they keep it in the they keep their strategy as arm and they get into a situation where both the countries are at the risk. So, prisoner's dilemma is particularly talks about a game where cooperation is profitable, but difficult to maintain, and that is why we do not get into the optimal strategy, rather we get into the suboptimal strategy. Then we will talk about some types of game, like what are the different types of game on the basis of the outcome, on the basis of the players, and then we will see how this is linked into the different oligopolist model what we discuss in our oligopoly market structure. So, games are classified either on the basis of the relation between players or on the basis of the strategy or on the basis of the outcome. So, the first kind of game is cooperative and non-cooperative game. So, cooperative game are essentially those which entails cooperation among the players. In real business world, such cooperation is considered to be illegal. Generally, that is called as collusion. It is not legal in the real world, but cooperative games are essentially those which entails the cooperation among the player, and non-cooperative games are where there is no possibility to tie up among players, like in case of cutthroat competition. So, non-cooperative games there is no tie up between the player or there is no collusion between the player, it generally happens in case of the cutthroat competition. Then we have normal form and extensive form games. So, normal form games list each player's strategy and possible outcome. that they derive from each strategy of the opponents. An outcome is revealed by the payoff matrix, and each player's payoff is denoted by the number to measure the utility derived from each strategy. So, in the previous case, whatever the payoff we are finding out on the basis of the different strategy, that is generally a normal form of the game. So, normal form of the game generally identify the list of the action taken by the players, that is the strategy, what is the end outcome in term of the strategy, and listing all this end outcome in term of a payoff matrix, that is generally the normal form of a game. Whereas, in case of extensive form of game or the typical game tree we call, it gives a complete plan of action of the player over a period of time, and it gives a chronological order in which player take their action at that particular point of time dependent on what they know at what point. So, generally game tree gives a complete plan of the player over a period of time. It is in a chronological order, and here player takes whatever the particular point of time, whatever the decision takes, that generally if you look at the when you are deciding the one decision point that leads to the what is the previous decision point, and it is dependent on the previous decision of the player. So, we will just take an example to understand the extensive form of game. Okay. So, for if you look at in the previous case, again we will take where we take the case of the advertisement. So, farm 1, if there are two options, either to advertise or do not advertise. This leads to again two outcome, that is for farm 2. Okay, so, this leads to outcome for farm 2, and here again two options, advertisement or not advertisement, and this leads to the payoff for both farm 1 and 2, and this comes as, if you remember, 50-20, and if it is not advertising, then it is 60 and 10. Similarly, if it is the farm 1 is do not advertise, then this leads for farm 2 to take two action, again advertise, do not advertise, and from here we get the payoff for farm 1 and 2. If farm 1 do not advertise, farm 2 advertise, we get a payoff of 40-30, and in the case of farm 1 do not advertise, farm 2 also do not advertise, we get a payoff of 55 and 25. So, this is the extensive form of game which record the particular action at the different point of time, and then dependent. So, if you look at why farm 2 is advertising, it depends upon because farm 1 is advertising. Farm 2 why it is not advertising, again it depends on what farm 1 is doing. Similarly, if you start from the payoff, why the payoff is this, because farm 2 is advertising, because farm 1 is advertising. So, extensive form of the game, or this is also known as the game tree. In this case, it gives a chronological order in which players take their action at that particular point of time dependent on what they know at that particular point. Then we will take a different kind of game, types of game, that is 2-person games and n-person games. This is classification is on the basis of the number of players. So, if it is 2, number is 2, it is a 2-person games. If it is more than 2, then it is a n-person games. Then we have a simultaneous move and sequential move games. So, in simultaneous game, both the players act at the same time. Even if players do not act at the same time, the second player is informed about the first player move. So, in case of simultaneous move game, both the players act at the same time. Even if the player do not act at the same time, the second player is informed about the first player move. This game is used for generally understanding the behavior of the oligopoly farm, and the typical example is Carnot model. So, if you remember in case of Carnot model, it is the it is the reaction function and that decides that what will be the outcome of the other farms dependent on the output of the whatever the output decision of the previous farm. Then in case of sequential game, one player acts followed by the other. Second player knows that the move adopted by the first player and take its decision contingent that taken by the first player, and the typical example is the Stackelberg model what we discussed in our discussion during the previous oligopolist market. So, simultaneous move game is the example of the Carnot model and sequential move game is the example of the Stackelberg model. Then we have constant sum, zero sum and non-zero sum game. So, in this case the classification is on the basis of the rivalry on the basis of the outcome. So, the extent to which goals of the player is coincide is the basis of the classification. So, in a constant sum game, total benefit of players given each strategy is constant, the players have to share the profit. It is a game of, if you look at constant sum game is the game of the total conflict and also this is a game of the pure competition. The typical example is the game of poker where it is the combined wealth of players remain constant, player of share A increases, so share of player B must decrease. Then we have a zero sum game, here the total benefit has to be equal to 0. So, the sum of gain and loss is 0 and whatever is gained by one player is lost by the other player. Then we have non-zero sum game and in case of non-zero sum game the total benefit of players added together given each strategy is more than 0 and constant. So, both the players of the game ends up in win-win or lossless situation and the typical example is the strategic alliance and the joint venture. So, in case of non-zero sum game total benefit of added together is more than 0 or more than a constant and typical example of strategic alliance and the joint venture we take as the non-zero sum game. Then we have symmetric and asymmetric game. So, in the symmetric game the payoff do not depends on the player of the game, but on the strategy of the game and typical example is the prisoner dilemma. So, this here the payoff is not on the player of the game, rather it is what is the strategy taken by the game and typical example prisoner dilemma what we discussed before few minutes. And asymmetric game do not have identical strategy for both the player because they are asymmetric and typical example is the market entry game. Then we will take 2-3 situation to understand this application of game theory in economics. So, game of entry of potential firm in an industry which already has a monopoly firm and here the incumbent has to decide whether to enter the market or stay out and monopolist has two options, collude or fight with the entered firm. So, we will just prepare a payoff matrix on this basis and we will see that how this game theory is also applicable on the basis of the decision of the firms when they enter into the market. And also we will see the application of this in the Carnot model and application of this in the Stackelberg model in our next session.